Check 1, 2. Hello, Geeky Gardens. Let me just make sure my mic is actually live here. Looks like it is. Finally didn't forget that. Welcome to the Sunday Night All Things Natural Net, hosted here on the Overlook Mountain Amateur Radio Club. Our repeater, 146-805 repeater. I know I'm running a little bit late. Just got a video conference with some close friends and my lady, and we're going to go ahead and start the net right off. Here we go. Let's jump in. This is KD2IIN Net Control for the Sunday Night All Things Natural Net. The Sunday Night All Things Natural Net is an amateur radio net provided by the Overlook Mountain Amateur Radio Club and dedicated to farming, gardening, ecology, and a broader scope of topics. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. This is KD2IIN Net Control looking for check-ins for the Sunday Night All Things Natural Net. Hope you're doing well, Geeky. Might be a quiet night tonight. You heard mic check 1, 2. With my mic low. Welcome, FMP Farms. Mic should be good, Geeky. Should be decent audio levels. I hope so. Hello, FMP Farms. Welcome. I don't think I've seen you in here before, or if I have, I don't remember. Glad you made it over. Okay, good, Geeky.
Was that you, CJ? Were you asking for check-ins, K2BHM?
That was me, Jim. Yes, it was me. And I'll consider you checked into the net, K2BHM. Welcome. And this is KD2IIN Net Control for the Sunday Night All Things Natural Net. If there's any further check-ins, please call now. Might be a quiet night tonight. It happens. Alright, no further check-ins recognized at this time. How's it going, Jim?
Go ahead, Bill.
Oh, did I double with somebody? Oh, maybe I doubled with someone. Okay, try again.
This sounded like Bill. It's actually me, W2NDG, Island.
W2NDG.
Is this?
Yeah.
W2RWS, Rob, Fine Plains.
There we go. Now it's taken off. Alright, very good. Well, then it also recognizes W2NDG Neil and W2RWS Rob. If there's any further check-ins, please call now. Alright, no further check-ins recognized at this time. We'll start up at the top of the list with Jim, K2VHM. Hello,
Sorry,
Peter.
Neil. It sure sounded like Bill. Anyhow, I did catch the tail end of you talking to Rob about Apple. And one comment, back in the days when I used to speak Windows, I solved an awful lot of problems by taking a crashed drive and moving it over to Linux.
I'm good, Peter.
And extracting stuff
Good luck
off
with
of
your
it.
carrots.
And running
Thanks for
keyboard
checking in.
to correct it, and sometimes it would correct it and it'd go back and work.
Hey,
And
Kylie.
sometimes I was just a hero and saved their data.
All right, very good. Well, I guess we'll roll on down to Neil, and then we'll go to Rob. W2NDG, pick it up.
Oh, yeah, Jim, I have a pile of utilities because data recovery is a specialty of mine. But if the drive completely disappeared from disk utility, that's usually a bad sign. If the drive is there but you can't do anything with it, or read any partitions on it, that's one thing, but when the drive disappears, so we'll see. I mean, after a reboot it might come back or anything, but yeah, I have numerous tools. The ones I use for, like if a drive has massive errors, and the repair utilities I have are platform independent. They're bootable, usually into like a DOS environment, and I have a few that I use. One's called HD Regenerator. There's a couple others, and sometimes they work miracles. Sometimes they work miracles for a very small amount of time. And with really, really sensitive data, if I've gotten HDAT or HDD Regenerator to actually work to where it makes the hard drive at least temporarily readable, if I'm dealing with really important data, I have a long SATA cable and long SATA power extender. I will literally put the hard drive in the freezer, wait about an hour, and then actually read it onto a laptop with it in the freezer, leaving it in there. And I don't know if it always helps, but it has helped. And when you're dealing with an escalating failure on a drive at an exponential rate, it'll at least get you a little more data by freezing the drive. The mistake most people make is they freeze it and then take it out and try to read it, and the condensation you create by doing that doesn't help. So anyway, that's my story, and I guess Rob can extrapolate on a little bit, and then we'll try to get to more organic hard drive news for CJ.
This is KD2 and Net Control for the Sunday night All Things Natural Net. That's interesting information, Neil. I've heard about the drive freezing thing. I've tried that once and managed to recover data doing that. And I'm kind of glad this came up because I have a hard drive that crashed on me back in June, and I have been unable to get it to show up on the machine at all. So that was something I was considering, but I want to have all my ducks in a row as far as a new drive to propagate that data to. I'm afraid I'm going to have to actually see if I can find that same make and model drive and switch the platters over, or see if I can recover a good set of heads from it or something, and try and hybridize the two to make it work. It's kind of frustrating. I got a lot of data on there, and I was remiss in maintaining redundancy. Anyway, we'll roll on down the list to W2 RWS, and then we'll do another opportunity for check-ins. Rob, pick it up.
Good evening. Listen, I don't want to bore you with this whole thing, but I got this wonderful iMac that's 2014 vintage. I paid a lot of money for it, and my 3 terabyte part of the hard drive isn't showing up, so I got a feeling I'm going to have to replace it. Everything's backed up. So, Neil, I guess I should just set this on the front porch and watch Kenny's weather net. I'm not quite sure what temperature it should go down to. Then I'll use the main soil to plant this thing and see if I can't grow a new one. There, I tied it into you. Back to you.
Very nice, very nice. It's funny that you mentioned that, because I was thinking, it's pretty cold out. This might be the time to try and recover that drive. I don't have to put it in the freezer. I could just stick it out the window and plug it into the machine and roll. So that's a possibility. All right, let's do another opportunity for check-ins, and then we'll roll back through the list. This is KD2 IIN Net Control for the Sunday night All Things Natural Net. If there's any further check-ins, please call now. KD2 TQS.
KD2 TQS. Ken.
All right, then it recognizes KD2 TQS. Ken, how are you this evening? Cup of chai, back porch by any chance?
2 out of 3 ain't bad. How about the first one?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that one.
You asked one question, how are you doing? Then you postulated the rhetorical questions of location and beverage. And I'm quoting Meatloaf saying 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Care to try on the first one. But again, it's Sunday night. Nets on. It's good. I will say that I am not having any problems whatsoever with my apples. But I do have a question about fruit when you want to get to that.
All right, fantastic. Well, let's just do an opportunity for check-ins, and then we'll get to your question about fruit, and then we'll run back through the rotation. This is KD2IN Net Control. Looking for any further check-ins? Call now. Hey, Les, how you doing? Good to see you. All right, no further check-ins. Ken, fire away with your question on fruit.
Sort of want to crowdsource this and see what's going on, and in particular, would really like information back from your listeners in other states and or other countries. I found that it has been a bodaciously bad year for fruit. Most fruit will go moldy very, very quickly. Got to a point where, at one point, I literally pulled out 6 or 7 things of strawberries off the shelf in the store, which were moldy in the container. Found one which was good, came home the next morning, half of it went moldy on me. So, and it's pretty much every fruit other than apples, so apple is okay. I had a watermelon go bad on me. I'm chatting with my roommate when the groceries came in. I said, all right, these look good, this will be a day or two, this will be fine. Watermelon was fine one day, because I checked them every day to see when to cut it. The next day, it had a flat spot on the bottom, and one side was already hyper-ripe and starting to ferment, and the other side of the melon wasn't. So, anybody else having real oddities with the way fruit is maturing and storing?
Thank you, Kyle.
Is that this year? Back to them.
All right, well, I have a couple of comments about that. KD2IN here. One, I have noticed my mom has given me some raspberries and a few other berries, and I found that I stuck them in the fridge. They were fine, and literally overnight they molded pretty quickly. So I was kind of surprised at that. Here on my farm with tomatoes, I did not experience that issue. So I didn't have that issue, but I do have a comment here from Kylie in the YouTube chat. She says she's found that spinach goes bad faster than usual this year. So there definitely is some sort of correlation here. And Aaron Heisner says our apples last a long time. I'm not sure exactly where Aaron is actually, but yeah, it sounds like there definitely are some correlations there. With that, let's roll back up to the top of the list, and we'll roll back through again. This is KD2IN Net Control for the Sunday Night All Things Natural Net. We'll go back to Jim, K2 BHM. OBS Studio, Hypnosis and Magic.
Up an old topic. I have taken a cast iron sleeve and put it in the freezer, and taken the aluminum cylinder and put it in the oven, and shrunk a sleeve back into my motorcycle engine.
Yes, thank you.
But I've never heard of putting the hard drive in the freezer and shrinking the bits. I'm wondering if that doesn't work. If you put it in the oven and keep warm and expand it, maybe that'll work. But who knows? Anyhow, yes, Ken, I have noticed recently that produce, particularly berries, seem to have a particularly short shelf life.
Yes, OBS Studio Hypnosis.
Even in the refrigerator. Yep. And I'm wondering if that has something to do with COVID and them taking longer to get where they're supposed to be. I don't know. I'm sure we'll beat that around and figure it out tonight.
Travel time, that could be part of it. All All right, very good. Thanks, Jim. And you have a good point there about travel time could be longer, so that may be a factor in it. I was wondering if there was some environmental factor. I know here in New York we did have quite a drought this year, so that might be a factor. But I'm not entirely sure on that. I do have other comments here in the YouTube chat from Aaron Heisner. It says black and blueberries don't last as long as they used to. And Les Hinn says, but the cabbage lettuce does wilt faster than he remembers it. So so those are thoughts. And we'll roll on down to Neil, W2 and DG.
So Jim, yeah, the bits do shrink, and it helps them fit down through the cable better. So you don't get issues with cable shrinkage, cable swelling. The other issue is if the hard drive is full of data when you put it in the freezer, it might be too heavy, and it may not work correctly, and it will sink to the bottom. Anyway, let me drop for a second. I mean, overall, with the stuff that I buy, I've noticed a couple of differences, and this is interesting. So when I get strawberries locally, either from the regular supermarket when I was getting them even from Adams, they weren't lasting usually more than a couple of days, or they would start to shrivel, or even I would get a couple of mold spots. When Angel brings them home from Sunflower, they last 2 to 3 times longer from that place.
Cable.
I think some of it has to do with what all of this stuff is going through before it gets to your hands. I think that the supply chains have changed, and some of this stuff is not as fresh as we think it is. That's my take on it. I get a misfits order every other week, and I usually get something leafy, whether Swiss chard, kale, collards, beet greens. I had some interesting stuff in there too that they offered, and I've noticed that it's pretty random. I've had a bunch of kale last a week and a half on me, and I had some rainbow chard go bad, like the day after I got it. And I think that's what I think the supply chains are so screwed up in the world right now that we have no idea how long it's been since that stuff was picked, cold stored, and shipped before we actually get it. That's my opinion. Back to you, CJ.
This is KD2 and Net Control, the Sunday Night All Things Natural Net. Those are excellent thoughts, Neil. The other thing that you mentioned that made me think about the supply chain, maybe their processing or handling is different. In addition to longer standing times, they may be taking extra procedures to try and prevent transmission of COVID or something. I wonder if they're exposing them to like an alcohol gas or some sort of radiation or something in an attempt to wipe out the COVID thing. So that's a possibility as well. Interesting thought and insights on that. And we have a comment here from the YouTube chat from Kylie. She says, my potatoes are going off pretty quickly, going mushy and taste like dirt. So additional feedback. She's in British Columbia in Canada. So that's another part of the world. Anyway, let's roll on down to Rob, W2RWS.
So I found a restaurant when my girlfriend and I were dating downtown that had a wonderful brunch with pancakes with drunken fruit. And I said, what is this?
Thank you, Geeky.
And there were 4 berries, drunken berries, I think it was. And it was delicious. They were soaked in brandy. So I said, I got to get the recipe. And there were 4 berries, I don't know, strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, and something else. Cherries, that was what it was. And I had a cherry pitter. So I decided to do this at home.
Hey, Bomber. Thanks for coming in.
I went out to the gym and I exercised, and it was about 10 o'clock, and I was kind of hungry, and I said, I got that drunken fruit in there. Oh my God, that's been there for about a week or so. It must be perfect. So I'm taking my teaspoons of the drunken fruit, and I thought I'd make some more. And I called my girlfriend, and I said, where's my my berry chitter? She said, what are you talking about? The berry chitter. I got looped on this stuff. It was delicious.
Awesome. I like that, and I know when Kylie was on my show a few weeks back, we were talking about birds getting drunk and that sort of stuff too on berries. So very interesting. All right, let's roll on down to KD2 TQS. Ken.
KD2 TQS.
Yes, they are. Aaron.
Agree that there's definitely changes in logistics. I'm not as convinced that's the issue. If it was logistics, it should be pretty uniform or more regular than what we're seeing. And literally, the previous watermelon cut okay. It was just a little bit pulpy, but it was still good. The next day, I got a piece out for him. One half of the watermelon, the far end of the moon of the watermelon, was fermented. The other side of that same piece of watermelon was not even ripe, and there was like a line right in the middle of it. It wasn't a gray zone in between. It was like, boom, there it is. That doesn't strike me as coming from logistics. Drop.
Yep. I'm in agreement with Ken.
Also, they actually are not treating food any differently now. Quite a while back, they stopped doing that. They realized that it wasn't being transmitted via food, so they're not doing any additional precautions on that. But I don't doubt, I know for a fact that a lot of this stuff, most of our produce in the U.S. comes from California or up from Mexico. So that's taking a lot longer to get here with less truckers to do it. But it's just, when I get the misfits orders or the rest, when I get my misfits orders, it's almost like a game of unpacking. And you think, okay, look at this one. See how there's no bruises on this one. This is okay. Feels solid. We'll put that in the bin. We'll check that in a day or two. We do it with every single thing that comes through. And then, like, the next day, it looks like you went through a bar fight the night before. It's like, where the hell did that come from? There was no bruises on it when it got here.
Yeah.
And the fruit's rotting unevenly in weird patterns. So that's the thing that really gets me, is the oddity of the pattern that it's happening with. It says something else is going on. Back to them.
Yeah, I agree. I had noticed that on a few things too. I don't remember what specifically, but yeah, there were some weird lines of, like a line of demarcation almost, where it was like, it was fine, then the next day there was a very clear line between the rotting part and the non-rotting part, and same kind of thing, looked like it got beat up overnight. Aaron Heisner says anything coming from California is getting held up, he hears, and he's got family in California. So let's roll on down to, I guess that brings us to the bottom list, so let me just do an opportunity for check-ins here. This is KD2IIN Net Control for the Sunday night All Things Natural Net. If there's any further check-ins, please call now. Bump the mic again. All right, no further check-ins recognized at this time. Let's roll back to the top list. K2 BHM.
Thanks, CJ. One thing comes to mind. Thermodynamics. You're assuming that something is in a refrigerated container and it's going to maintain a uniform temperature throughout the whole thing. Things that are closer to the coils are going to get colder, and things that are closer to the outside will be more subject to extreme heat.
True.
It's very difficult to maintain a thoroughly uniform temperature-controlled environment. So it could be that the stuff that we're getting is basically to the edge of the environment or to the center of the environment. It's hard to say. There's no way of knowing. But like I say, maintaining uniformity is very difficult.
Yeah, I recognize that too, but it seems like this change has happened in the last year or so, and so that doesn't seem to be consistent with that being part of the issue. But you do have a valid point there. We do have a comment in YouTube chat here from Bomber. Bought 2 persimmons the other night, and one looks like it's been through a war. She says I was gentle with them, but things don't keep anymore. Pineapple, same thing. All right, let's roll on down to W2 MDG Neil. Hey, Joe. How's it going? Good to see you in the chat.
Sorry,
No worries,
I
Trevor.
the tuning knob again on this thing. Jim knows what I'm talking about. But it's sitting here, and if I'm using it on VHF, I have to remember to flip the little tension control up so I don't do this. Interesting description of that watermelon, Ken. I keep thinking that it's somehow related to like when, people who don't know what they're getting order something like, seared sashimi and get something, that's, burnt to a crisp on the outside and completely raw on the inside. Something that's unripe on one end and fermented on the other. It's just crazy. I do see, more oddities in the stuff coming in. But I don't know, I've been getting better produce than I used to, and I have to say that, I have a better fridge than I did before too, and it does keep things better. So
Thanks,
that's
Joe.
a big part of it, a crappy fridge is terrible for keeping things that have to be refrigerated and keeping them well. I can remember a couple places I've lived where stuff never lasted ever in a fridge, and I found that in this one and the place we were before was pretty good too. With lettuce, so I give it a good rinse and a dry and put it in, and if I'm still using the same bunch of lettuce, if I repeat that after 2 or 3 days, I can get quite a bit of time out of a bunch of romaine hearts or whatever it is that I'm using. Most of the greens, I just rinse and put them back. I have a stalk of celery in this fridge. It's probably been in there for a month, and all it's done is grow. It hasn't started to wither. It's still crisp. Really can't complain. So some stuff is fine. Anyway, as spring approaches, CJ, I'm going to start pushing for ideas for a low-maintenance garden here, something small to start with. I'd like to grow some things, but I don't want to jump into something that I have to devote a ton of time to in the beginning because I haven't done this in years, and it's definitely blazing new territory for me because I don't remember what worked the last time. W2NDG, back to you.
Fair enough. Well, I'll be glad to provide any insight I can, and I would definitely encourage you to do stuff more on the perennial side of things or on the simpler side of things, but don't be afraid to start calling me as we head towards spring. I'm glad to share any info I have with you. And certainly handling and processing and maintaining helps, and refrigerator quality helps. There's lots of factors there for sure. All right, let's roll on down to W2 RWS. Rob.
I don't want to burst anybody's bubble, but I tried that Misfits fruit and vegetable shipping and got 2 in a row that were absolutely horrible. And we decided to bag it. I was really disappointed. It wasn't fresh. Most of the stuff, or some of the stuff, was just a really big disappointment. So I bagged that. I was also worried about the carbon footprint on that. Having a FedEx truck pull up for a bunch of vegetables I could just buy down the street. So that was on my not so nice list.
All right, fair enough. I would have to agree. The carbon footprint on that probably isn't great. We have a comment here from Bomber in the chat. She says, trim the bottom of the lettuce, celery, or kale, anything that has a stem. Just trim it lightly, leaving root still there, and put it in the water in fridge. It will keep it crisp and still growing. Let's see. We'll on down to KD2TQS. Ken. Web produce.
I definitely can agree with Rob on that. In the summer, the shipments were quite challenging, and I very quickly learned to readjust my ordering profile with them. They didn't seem to grasp the concept of putting flour in a paper bag.
I'm with you, Peter.
At the bottom of the container. Well, that makes sense for shipping because it's heavy, but then when you put the ice pack on top of it and the condensation drips down, they didn't quite grasp the concept that you prefer flour versus brick to bake with. So I've modified that greatly on the orders with them, but I keep my finger in it because I can't run down the street to the grocery to get it. So it's somewhat useful, and the carbon footprint thing, I think, is sort of half and half because they're rescuing produce that otherwise would be thrown out. So factor that in. But field greens is a better option because they deliver from the local farms. So I'll be setting up with them. I have the account set up with them. I'll be ordering from them shortly, and I may discontinue Misfits myself because I'm less than impressed. Back to them.
All right, very good, very good. And yeah, excuse me, one sec. One thing I would say is probably Misfits, you're also going to, I mean, those are going to be vegetables that are compromised on a nutritional basis a little bit, and that's part of why they become a misfit in some cases, I would think, at least. So, there's probably a factor of that in there as well. That just brings us down to the bottom of the list, so let's just do another opportunity for check-ins. This is KD2IIN Net Control for the Sunday Night All Things Natural Net. If any further check-ins, please call now. You guys are so dirty. Alright, no further check-ins recognized this time, so we'll go back to the top list to K2BHM.
Thanks, CJ, KGPHM. Well, we're in kind of a unique position. We're,
that'll mix you up.
I don't know, 2 miles away from Adams here in Kingston, so pretty much everything we do, we go past there. And if the parking lot doesn't look ridiculous, we go in and get everything there. So that's pretty much our primary source for produce and meats and so forth. And then we'll go to Price Chopper or Hannaford's or whatever for paper products and the other essentials. But the stuff that's perishable, we pretty much stick with Adams. And we have noticed that the shelf life is not consistent. So it's got to be something with supply chain. Because they typically always get better produce, better products than everybody else. So I don't know what's happening, but whatever. KGPHM.
You may well be right. I mean, the supply chain shifted dramatically this year, so it's possible they're not even sourcing from the same companies or whatever. And Adams, at least in my memory, usually used to have really awesome produce on all forms and all levels. So I was disappointed to hear that, but I guess it is what it is. Let's roll on down to Neil, W2 and DG.
I have to comment on the Misfits thing. I got into the game kind of late with them, and my first delivery was interesting. Interesting enough that I decided to keep it going. And but I said, when I say interesting, I mean they had offered unique things that I wasn't seeing in the stores as much, and I kind of liked that. And then it was my second or third shipment. Rob was saying, was awful. Everything was horrible, not in good shape, and one of the problems I know that they were having is back at the beginning of the pandemic, their business exploded. They were having trouble really keeping up with everything. I'm surprised that they made it because they were really having trouble expanding as fast as they needed to expand, and getting a hold of them was half of the problem. But I got a reply after a few days, and they, give me an apology about, my order being messed up. They said they had had some issues with the delivery. They were changing the way that they were going to be doing this, the way they were packing stuff, the way they were trying to keep it fresh, and that they would give me my next shipment for free and then go from there. And I figured I would give them a shot, and the next free shipment was definitely better, but not perfect. And then the one after that was where they changed the way they were packing the stuff and the type of, they're using these freezer packs that are so cold that when I once sent Jill to work with one when she had forgotten her regular lunch bag, it actually froze her lunch. So, and they do so much business now that very little of what you get is actually what I would call misfits produce. It's just regular organic produce. Yes, I could just go to the store and get it. There's not a great place in New Paltz, in my opinion, for that. Tops has decent produce, but I just like what I'm getting from them. I like sitting down and picking it out every week when the email comes, and there's always something interesting in the list. And there's certain things I've gotten from them that I'm really happy with, like their sweet onions and their red onions, and the potatoes they've been sending me are just really good quality. So that's why I stuck with them. Every now and then something funky happens, but it's only one item in the whole box. So so far I've been happy with them. And the freezer packs are cool. I keep them and I reuse them sometimes.
All right, KD2 and net control for the Sunday Night, all things natural. Well, thanks for sharing that information, Neil. I'm not familiar with any of these companies. I haven't actually ordered from any of them, but it's interesting to hear all the different experiences. And yeah, I could see a freezer pack, over freezing something, and that would cause the tissue damage. And that might be why, if that might be why you get that weird line of demarcation, like Kim was talking about, where one part of it just totally goes bad across a line. But let's roll on down to W2 RWS. Rob. Hey,
well, Neil, I should have had you negotiate for me. I didn't. That would have been a good idea. Hey, a friend of mine gave me an antenna. Didn't know what it was. Says, well, I don't know what this 40-channel antenna thing is. Turns out to be a 5/8 wave, a CB antenna out of 4 telescoping poles that you screw together from 1972, new in the box. So my thought was I was going to modify that to 10 meters. So I got to do the math and figure out exactly what I need to do to not telescope it. I think I telescope it a little bit less. And I've got a SWR, a rig expert, to tell me what the SWR is. So I'm going to experiment with that. Just thought I'd throw it out there. My big question is, how many watts does it take? I got a linear that was adjusted for full 1.5 kW. And I don't want to see this thing go up in smoke if I do that. I'm not quite sure how I find out how many watts it's rated for.
I'm not sure. You might be able to Google search that, but I definitely would not dump 1.5 kW in that. Most of those CB antennas weren't designed for much more than, CB originally was 4 watts, but most of those I wouldn't try to put more than 20 or 50 watts into. And you should be right on with the telescoping down a little bit, assuming there isn't a loading coil in the bottom of that to get down into the 10 meter band. Although my understanding is the 10 meter band is still pretty dead with the sun cycle being at where it's at. But I'll let the other stations pick up their 2 cents on it as well as we roll down through the list. For now, let's roll on down to KD2 TQS. Ken?
KD2 TQS. Misfits, yeah, I still think it's a good product. It's a good service. I'd recommend it to people. But you just want to look at modifying your orders and figuring out what works and what doesn't work. Their onions, awesome. Chives, celery, last freaking forever. It's great. Their lemons went within a week or less than a week, all of them went. But a lot of that was also the weather and everything else. And all things considered, I think it's a good deal. They're very, very customer service friendly on refunding stuff and going from there. And their market area where you get the optional add-ins can be very useful. But especially now in the winter when I can't go to the farmer's market,
Thanks, Bees and Bikinis.
I definitely will
Wintertime.
like I say, Field Goods does local farms. So that's what I'm going to look into and go from there. But in terms of the fruit rot and this and that, it was the same whether I bought it locally, got it through Field Goods, or Misfits, or anything else. It was pretty much universal across the board. So it wasn't there time of their shipping. So back to that.
Very interesting. Well, thanks for sharing that experience with us, Ken. All right, let's just do a quick opportunity for check-ins here, and then we'll roll back through. This is KD2IIN Net Control for the Sunday night All Things Natural Net. If there's any further check-ins, please call now. Negative. All right, back to the top of the list. K2 BHM, pick it up.
Thanks, CJ. K2 BHM back again. Yeah, I haven't tried the delivery services and so forth. We're close enough to Adams, and we've been using it for years. I'd rather shop local, and they source local whenever they can. And I get a chance to go there and look at it and evaluate it myself and look at the condition. And if I don't like this particular one, I'll go and take that one, whatever, and plan the meals around it and go and grab up the other stuff to complement what I'm going to cook. So that kind of works. I don't know if I would, how well I would do with somebody just dropping off what they think I might like. So anyhow. And as far as the antenna is concerned, CB antenna, yeah, it was originally intended for 5 watts max, but they knew somebody who was going to run a heater, so probably maybe 50 or maybe 100 watts. But I wouldn't try and poke a gallon and a half through it. And if you did put it at 10/11ths of the original size, you'd probably hit it pretty close. But an SWR bridge or
I agree.
VNA or whatever could put you a lot closer. But still in all, you're probably better off going with something designed for 10 meters that's going to handle the power.
Yep.
CB antennas, they were kind of a dime a dozen and cheap, and
yeah, it was.
a lot of compromises because they don't know where they were going to be put. So, anyhow, that's my 2 cents. K2PHM.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Jim. Better off, especially if you're going to dump 1.5 kW into it. You definitely want an antenna up to the job on that. And there's really some much better antenna designs than something like that. But anyway, we'll pass on down to Neil, W2 NDG.
All right, yeah, I agree with what Jim is saying on that. So
Tell me your own.
no different opinion here. Jim,
For me,
another reason why I stuck with them was that right after I joined, they started the program where you choose what you get. And every now and then they'll sub an item, and they usually pick something that's, like I said, is interesting anyway. But yeah, usually 3-4 days before my order.
Yeah, check your sourcing.
Actually, it's longer. It's like about a week before, I think. I get an email saying it's time to pick your stuff. And it, like I said, it's first come, first serve. They sell out of things sometimes, but you go into the list and you check off what you want. 6 from this category, 4 from this category, 2 from this category. And that fills out your regular subscription order. And then they have what they call the marketplace, where they have other add-ons, interesting things, where they have cool kinds of coffee. Are you listening, Ken? And stuff like I tried these mini baby cauliflower heads that are sweet, and a couple other. I got a bag of sunchokes or Jerusalem artichokes through there.
Yeah, I like Canadians.
Which have also been fun to work with. So I don't know. I feel like I'm a salesman for the thing. I'm defending them because I was ready to walk away myself, and they did a complete turnaround, and they've really done a good job in keeping people happy. That's all. kitchen. That's how I make my
That sounds
sausage
good.
and peppers now. Then we need the meat of the month club, and I'll get the sausage, right? W2NDG. Back to CJ.
All right, very good, and thanks for sharing that, Neil. And yeah, that's a valid point. It is tough to adjust supply chains, especially with produce or farming-related items. Not like you can just go have the manufacturer make more and schedule when that's going to be done. It's just a hard chain to adjust to, or a hard situation to adjust to, and I can attest to that with the limited sales that I do here on this farm. Definitely, it's hard to deliver it when the customer wants it, and there's definitely been plenty of misses on that sort of thing. So anyway, let's roll on down to W2 RWS. Rob, this is KD2 IIN Net Control for the Sunday night All Things Natural Net.
Well, I get everybody's point that CB radios were only designed for 5 watts. I got that. But this thing I've never seen before. It's telescoping tubes. One tube fits in another, fits in another. There are 5 of them, and it's really heavy gauge aluminum. So really, I'm not doing a fine wire here. And it's got a PL259 adapter on the end. So I figured, what the heck, if I put a heavier gauge coax on it that could handle it, I thought I would try it. Hey, what can I do? Get it red hot and kill a few birds? I guess. What the heck? I got it for free. But it's all solid tubing.
All right. Well, if it's all solid tubing, it may work. Definitely would check into that loading coil. I wasn't so worried about your antenna as I was your amplifier, because amplifiers aren't cheap, and I just hate to see it blow that. But definitely check for a loading coil on that, and try and get more information about how that antenna tunes and how it's actually designed. With that, let's roll on down to KD2 TQS.
KD2 TQS, question for Rob. Is it a Binford brand? Then you don't have to worry about it. Coffee, yes. I tried the Cesis coffee from those guys. Got it the first time, 1 bag, tried it, and it was too sweet.
Yeah, same here, Carly. Same here.
But I know order it on a regular
Love
basis,
bordering.
because if you do like 1 part of the Cesis to about 5 or 6 parts of the bold blends or even an espresso blend, it gives it just this awesome depth and character of taste. So to drink it straight, no way. But when I start blending it in with others, it's awesome. Awesome stuff. And the Peace Coffee Tree Hugger is a pretty darn good brand too. So I've got some good coffee from Misfits. Back to them.
Very interesting, very interesting. Well, thank you for that. And I didn't realize they carried coffee as well. I can attest to the coffee blending thing being nice. There's one type of coffee that the local roasting shop carries called Costa Rican. Oh, it's from Costa Rica, Costa Rican. And I really like that coffee, but if I drink that for more than a couple days, it just turns to be like too acidic. And I find if I blend that in with something like Guatemalan or Tanzanian peaberry or something like that, and in a lower percentage, that really like twists that taste, and it makes it much nicer for a longer period of time. So that makes a lot of sense. All right, it's about 9:48 p.m. here, so we're going to go back through and do the final round, and then we'll close this net out. So final comments starting at the top of the list. K2 BHM Jim.
Thanks, CJ. Interesting topic tonight.
Belly button.
Pre-COVID, going to the grocery store. Your wife gives you a list. Baby soda.
Venison,
They don't
man.
have any.
I haven't had venison in a long time.
Whatever. But now that you're actually in the kitchen and doing the work, and you can go through the grocery store and see this, and this will go with that, and that will go with the other thing, and so forth and so on. And as you're walking through the store, you can plan your meals. And it's kind of a unique revelation.
Honey for
It's
me.
kind of like when I took German 1, you kind of read things and translated them from German to English or English to German, whatever, and by about German 3, you were thinking in German. And the same thing happened with
Jawohl.
basic. I got to a point where you could actually think in basic computer language logic. So it's quite a unique revelation. So I kind of experienced a new enlightenment, I guess you might say. And anyhow, Rob, the antenna. Yeah, if there's no loading coils or balance or something like that, it would be subject to it if it's a simple ground plane. Go for it, but be careful.
I like it fresh though, big difference.
Because I noticed with my VNA,
I'll bet you do.
Long wire antenna is very happy on the VNA, and it's very happy on my 7100 as long as it's 1 or 2 watts, but go above that, and all hell breaks loose. So, RF is black magic and witchcraft. You don't know what's going to happen until you actually test it and verify it, so be careful. Anyhow, back to you. Good day, TJ, and thanks for a good evening. KGBHM.
Thank you, Jim. Great thoughts and great final comments. I appreciate your participation. I hope you have a great evening as well. Let's roll on down to Neil, W2, MDG.
All right. When you mentioned school-level German, I was thinking about something I keep forgetting to bring up on the morning net. When Paul is doing his little monologue, one of the words he says is conjutations. And I know it's not the same thing, but my brain immediately goes to conjugations.
Yep.
And I suddenly have flashbacks to middle school German class. So, and the conjugating German verbs. And Jim, a piece of local Kingston trivia, which was just interesting, that's all. But my son and I are 30 years apart in age and had the same high school German teacher. So, all very interesting. And Ken, I haven't tried the coffee yet, but I do intend to. I always have enough when the order comes through, and you know what the hell, I'll add a pound or two of something in there. But
yes, it is, Aaron.
I forget what this week's add-on was. I put something in there. I think it was just broccoli. It wasn't in the regular list, but I figured their broccoli is probably pretty good. I used it in a stir-fry tonight, and it was very good. I get scallions from them, and I'm just amazed at how long they last. And when they start to wither, they simply dry out a little bit. I just take off the tops and the outer layer of the bottom, and they're still perfect. 2 weeks I've gotten. Not bad. So, W2NDG, and back to that. Everybody have a good night. The radio will be on as long as I'm still sitting here trying to do my HRU posts. Have a good one, CJ.
Same here, Neil. Conjugation brings me back to German as well, but then more recently with code, I go right to concatenation, which is a whole different topic. But anyway, great thoughts and comments. Thank you for your participation. And we'll just pass on down to W2 RWS, Rob.
So I was collecting pine cones because I was frustrated. I thought I could dig up a couple
All right, good night, bees and
cones
bikinis.
sproutlings
Thanks for coming
under
in.
a pine tree, and I never found one. I don't understand why they don't grow from the seeds, but I'm going to attempt to do it. I understand the stratification, and I'm going to try it and see what happens. I've been getting great success growing stuff in egg crates, especially the plastic ones. I can leave the top on, and it's a miniature greenhouse. So that's my next thing to do.
All right, very good. I'm not sure. I don't think I've ever tried to sprout pine cones. I always just go out and source pine trees, but it might have to do with stratification, or cold weather period, or something like that. But I wish you luck with it, and I look forward to hearing more about it. And then we'll roll on down to KD2 TQS. Ken, your final comments for the net?
Final comment, but no discussion. Regarding the fruit, we'll save Gia theory and interconnectedness perhaps for next week, because that could take a little bit longer than a fleeting comment. So with that, I'll pass it back to Matt.
Joe, have a good evening too. All right, Ken. Well, thank you for your contributions as always and support. And yeah, interesting. We'll definitely have to carry on that fruit conversation. I'll have to poll a few other people I know and see if they've had any similar experiences or any other ideas or insight on it. With that, we're going to wrap this net up. Just one sec. Just some announcements before we do. Thursday nights at 8 p.m. is the Thursday Night Net. That's run by Dave, K2JLV. That's more amateur radio and technically oriented. Always excellent conversation and thoughts in that net. I encourage you to join that and check it out. Every day at 8:35 a.m. and 6:30 p.m. is the OMARC Daily Net. It's more of a local, just check-in net. And then, of course, tonight was the Sunday Night All Things Natural Net. And then up and coming, I think there's going to be some midnight nets going, hosted by, I forget his call sign now, but he's here watching the YouTube stream. So when those are more solidified, we'll announce those as well. If you want, I guess that's it for that, so we'll just close this out. This is KD2IIN for the Sunday Night All Things Natural Net, and this is hosted here on the 146.805 megahertz repeater with a PL tone of 103.5 and a negative shift of 600 kilohertz. If you want to find out more about our nets, our club, or our repeater, you can always go to www.omarcclub.org. That's whiskey. Oscar Mike Alpha Romeo Charlie Lima Uniform Bravo. Oscar Romeo Golf. Visit our website. Thanks to all those who participated. This is KD2IIN saying 7-3. Everyone have a great evening and stay warm out there. Thanks for joining everyone. 7-3. It's KD2IIN. We'll be clear. So that closes the net out. Thank you everyone for participating. Wow, we really had a lot of chat going on here tonight. We had some good comments in the chat and some good dirty jokes as well, some good laughs. And I appreciate your participation and support.
Yeah, that was fun.
Hope we will see you guys.
I think CJ either had too much coffee or he had to leave in a hurry. It was a really quick sign out. I'm going to tease him about that one. Anyway. I'm almost...
I hope you guys will join us for Tuesday night's episode of Comrades and Farms. My guest will be Kylie Victoria, and we'll be having a really interesting conversation. So I hope you'll join us for that, and I hope you'll check out this net again in the future. Thanks to everyone who joined or participated. Thank you to all my mods for all your help and support, especially Geeky Gardens for putting out all those links up for me. And yeah, don't forget to check out the Paranormal Portal. They have a live stream up next here at 10 p.m. I hope you'll go check that out as well. With that, I'm going to wrap this up. Everyone have a great evening. Thanks for participating. 7-3s. As